Hello, I'm Papa Anderson of the class of 21, and in this video, we are going to talk about how to approach challenging discussions concerning COVID-19. It is crucial for students to feel comfortable communicating to each other about following health and safety guidelines, since all students may have had very different experiences during the pandemic. Some of us are coming from locations that were more severely affected by the pandemic and experienced the full negative impact of the virus. Others are also coming from states or countries where lockdowns were looser than Williams' restrictions. However, here at Williams, we all need to follow the same guidelines to ensure the safety of our community. Please speak up respectfully if someone's actions or words are making you feel unsafe. Similarly, please be understanding if somebody lets you know that they are concerned about your behavior, and do change your behavior to ensure the safety of every member of the Williams community. We will fail even before we have a chance to succeed if students don't hold each other accountable and treat each other with respect. Let's look at some general guidelines for approaching conversations. These guidelines have been grouped into the acronym GROW. G in the acronym stands for goals. Do not assume that the person knows your personal circumstances or individual concerns without you sharing them explicitly. The person may be surprised by your concerns, especially during this time where people may prioritize personal needs and assess risks differently. Understand that you do not have to divulge any personal medical information, but do share information about what you need in these circumstances and cite common goals that we are trying to achieve as a college. R is for reality or respect. Be frank about how the person is behaving and making you feel. That is, state the reality of the situation. But also, it is important to be truthful without demeaning the other person. The conversation may be difficult, but important to have in a respectful and constructive way to ensure a positive relationship or a positive outcome. Express your perspective without attacking the other person and cite common goals. Remember, it's possible to speak the truth while considering another person's feelings. O in the acronym stands for options. It is always important to suggest ways a person may improve their behavior. Consider timing and the best medium to have conversations too. Also, don't hesitate to use available resources on campus to help steer conversations or address any situation. This situation is very emotionally charged for most people. Preparing ahead for such conversations can help you manage your own emotions and anticipate emotional responses from others. Finally, W represents willingness. You should signal a willingness to hear the other person's perspective and acknowledge the opinion. It is important to make sure you both feel heard. You can do that by summarizing what the other has said and confirm your understandings. Avoid discussing solutions or alternatives until there is a shared understanding of the problem. No matter how much literature we may read to equip ourselves, we may not always make the right decision. We should be willing to reflect on our own actions and inactions, which may adversely affect others in the Williams community, and we should learn to forgive each other. Also, we should be willing to change our actions when called upon to do so to ensure the safety of all members of the Williams community. One important attribute to consider is to have the courage to speak up when something is wrong. Whenever you fear confronting someone, you should ask yourself, what's at the heart of my fear? Am I convinced I'm doing the right thing for both the Williams community and the person? Am I trying to make them feel better at the expense of the Williams community? The effect of hesitating instead of having the courage to do the right thing has a compounding effect. Have courage and speak the truth, and always speak out when you see that something is wrong. In the following slides, we will look at some scenarios in which some individuals were put in unsafe situations and assess how they approached their conversations. Scenario 1. Fred and Andy are pod mates. Fred decides to hang out with friends in a neighboring pod's common room without face masks and invites Andy. Andy is uncomfortable with Fred breaking guidelines and decides to confront Fred. Watch how he responds. Hey Andy, I'm heading to Peter's common room to hang out with 6 of our friends. Want to come? Their common room is pretty small, so it will be hard to distance properly. Are you wearing masks? No. Those masks are so uncomfortable. Plus, we haven't left campus in weeks. There is no way any of us have COVID. I hear you. It can be annoying to wear masks all the time, but it's important. Williams isn't a bubble. We might not have left campus, but there are lots of faculty and staff who commute. But none of us feel sick, and we are young and healthy. Getting COVID would be just like getting the flu. Truly, many people who have COVID can be asymptomatic, so you might be sick without knowing it. And yes, we might be fine, but there are many members of the Williams community who are high risk. We should do everything possible to keep them safe. I guess I wasn't thinking about it that way. I don't want anyone to get really sick. But are you saying we can't see anyone outside of our pod? Of course not. I also want to see Peter and the rest of our friends, but their common room is too small for the 8 of us to hang out safely. What if we meet them outside instead? That's a good idea. It's a beautiful day. I'll text everyone and tell them to meet us on Coalfield, where we can comply to physical distancing measures. Let's look at what Andy did well. 1. He listened to Fred's perspective. Andy empathized with Fred's annoyance in wearing masks. 2. He cited common goals. Andy reminded Fred that while COVID-19 might not be a high concern for them personally, it's a very dangerous and scary disease for vulnerable members of the Williams community. 3. He provided an alternative solution. Andy told Fred that he also wanted to hang out with their friend group and found a solution in which they could do that safely. 4. He stayed respectful. Andy helped Fred understand why his actions made him uncomfortable without yelling at him or calling him out. What about Fred? What did he do well? Fred listened to Andy's perspective. Fred listened to Andy's explanation of the importance of following guidelines and made it clear that he understood. 2. He accepted Andy's critique without getting defensive. 3. He went along with the alternative solution. Fred happily accepted the change plans which would keep the Williams community safer and make Andy more comfortable. Scenario 2. Victor and Joe are lab partners in Bio 101 lab. One day, before the professor comes into the room, Victor comes up to Joe and takes off his mask to have a conversation. This makes Joe uncomfortable because Victor is making him unsafe and he initiates a conversation. Hey, I am not cool with you trying to talk to me in the lab with your mask off. Oh, why? We are lab partners and so we can just talk to each other with our mask off since we'll be spending a lot of time with each other. Yes, I know, but you still need to keep your mask on anytime you talk to me in the classroom or other closed spaces. But why? I don't feel sick. Plus, we are going to be next to each other throughout lab. There are still many reasons why you should wear your mask. You will never know when you contract the virus. Remember, you are infectious 2 days before you show any symptoms. You don't want any of your droplets falling on my hands or into my eyes. Or what if your droplets fall on the lab bench and someone touches it with their hands? Geez, I didn't know all of that. I hear you and I apologize for making you feel unsafe. I will put my mask on now and will make sure my actions comply with physical distancing guidelines in the future. In this scenario, Can you think of some of the things that Victor or Joe did well or could improve on? If yes, that means you are ready to hold your peers accountable to all college guidelines for keeping us safe. If not, please revisit the conversation guidelines until you are comfortable doing so. Sometimes it might be difficult to share concerns in the moment or in person. Don't hesitate to express concerns via text or email, but having the courage to confront persons in real time could be more effective for the community. Thank you.